Welcome back to another edition of Our Economy Today, Hard Data That Matters, August 31st, 2023, from the desk of Christopher Walraven. BlackRock is the discussion. How did it become the mammoth that it is today? The world leader in investments for countries, institutional investments, and it is one that is on speed dial when countries have financial calamities. How did it get to this point? And who is the leader? Well, the leader is someone that's had several large mistakes and one leading right up to the financial collapse of 2008. So how did he become the chosen one? Everyone knows about Larry Fink's first mistake because he talks about it. It's that $100 million loss that he had at First Boston. And he hedged the bet and he lost on both sides. And it was a software program that he thought was invincible. So it knocked him down a peg, and the risk, even with the computer, could not take it all the way out of the system. But the big loss was something that made the $100 million look like a small tea party, was his purchase of the Stuyvesant town property in 2006. Now, why in the hell would he do that? There were already subprime issues. There were cracks already in the real estate market. He's supposed to be ahead of the curve, not behind it. He has people in the house at BlackRock that should understand the markets. And then he has this Aladdin software that he was bragging about. And of course, now countries and other competitor of institutional investment firms utilize this software. So he ended up purchasing this in 2006 for $5.4 billion. Needless to say, he walked away from it and handed the keys back. But how did he get into this? Well, there is an article that you can read from the New York Magazine dated January 30th, 2009. And at this point, in July 2006, MetLife announced it would be listing the Stuyvesant town property onto the market. A bidding war broke out among a dozen suitors, including the city's real estate moguls, the Rothschilds, and the Prince of Qatar. Now, early in the bidding process, Rob Spire learned that Larry Fink was planning on doing his own bid on this project. They met over an unrelated deal and decided to team up jointly. Thus, that was the Tishman Spire BlackRock. That acquisition ended up hurting everyone from CalPERS teachers pension $500 million, Florida pension $100 million, foreign countries. Yet, what happened? You got it. BlackRock just walks away unscathed and went on to the next deal, acting like they didn't even have this colossal mistake. So this was in 2006. It was reported in the 2006 annual report for BlackRock, here on page 19 of that report. Down in here it says, notable in the fourth quarter of 06, BlackRock and Tishman Speyer formed a joint venture to acquire Peter Cooper Village, and the largest apartment complex in New York City. That was put in. Now, there is an article from the Financial Times, and you can see it here. It goes back and it says, he initially downplayed the wider dangers of the subprime housing market when it started to emerge in early 2007, telling the FT that the market was under a lot of stress, but he didn't see it exploding into something meaningful and more destructive to the overall housing market. BlackRock investment in the New York Stuyvesant town Peter Cooper Village ended up being an embarrassing disaster. And he was offering the Aladdin software during this process. He still offers it today. And you see right here, which expanded far beyond just offering this software to clients. So then he turns around, 2008 comes, And who does the Federal Reserve and the Treasury call? Paulson. Who's on speed dial? Guess what? Larry Fink. Larry Fink shows up, and then he comes to the rescue for the Federal Reserve. Bernanke. You have the failure of Lehman and Bear Stearns. Who gets to unwind that? Who's set by the U.S. government to place those assets across the market and to liquidate? It was BlackRock. Now, what's amazing is, let's shoot all the way up to COVID. And this is from the Financial Times, the Financial Post section. This was from March 30th, 2020. And guess who the Federal Reserve calls when we have issues in the financial system? So, as you see, the U.S. Central Bank had announced plans to buy bonds, ETFs, for the first time ever through its New York arm as part of an effort to ease stresses in the financial system caused by the coronavirus. They were buying bonds directly issued, bond purchases on the secondary market, and ETFs. The third purchase were commercial-backed securities. And who was overseeing them? BlackRock. Remember, these mortgage-backed securities were put in tranches. They were rated AAA, and they ended up being garbage. But then, after 2008, we backstopped the mortgage-backed securities, and the government was buying those. That's what the Treasury was buying with quantitative easing. Even this last housing rise, we were buying mortgage-backed securities, the U.S. government, the Federal Reserve, let's make this correct. The Federal Reserve was absorbing all of this money. That money then was being paid back to whoever gave the loan. That loan money then was available again to keep driving the real estate market. So we had the low end of the curve on the 10-year, so interest rates stayed low. So we had the U.S. government providing all the money necessary to drive a housing market. Low interest rates allowed people to get in because it wasn't wages, it was interest rates being low that allowed people to get into more of a house. That's the reason now at 6 or 7%, the same wages, you cannot get in anywhere near that same house. A $400,000 house today is out of reach when it was in reach when it was 2.5%, 3%. So the U.S. government caused this inflationary pressures, and not just from housing, but because of putting all this money into the system. Remember, when you create this money, it's debt, it's inflationary, and it has to flow somewhere. So it will raise asset prices. And it can go into all asset classes, or usually it just chooses one or two. And here recently it's been real estate. It can be equities. Before that, it was part of the financial equities market. It was the tech bubble back in 1999, 2000, 2001. So we create these bubbles. Then we drive prices up. Money is created out of thin air, or money is created when a bank makes a loan, and then when the loan is paid off, that money then gets taken back out of the system. I'm getting off on a tangent. Aladdin. Aladdin is still in existence, and it does very well for BlackRock. Countries, central banks use it. Like I stated earlier, competitors of BlackRock use it. Remember, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street control at least 80% of the S&P 500. BlackRock also is the major stockholder in its competitors, Goldman Sachs, Charles Schwab, Jefferies, etc. They even have more power over Tesla. Elon Musk is the wealthiest person in the world, but guess who owns more shares of Tesla? The three kings. Same way with Amazon, the three kings, Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock have more shares in Amazon than Bezos does. Coca-Cola, for example, Berkshire Hathaway, largest stock individual holder, Warren Buffett. But if you take the three kings, again, they surpass Warren Buffett's percentage of ownership. Aladdin is being used today. It's even driving everything from the financial side to the climate, ESG, DEI section. We also see how BlackRock is pushing that Aladdin technology for net zero push. This is the financial news. This was from February 2022. And then ICE. ICE is part of Intercontinental Exchange, which runs the New York Stock Exchange. ICE also has the section that has climate, ESG, and all of that research, and you can pay for those services. Also, you can buy their various types of bonds and equities. Here's one that's sort of new that you're not hearing much of. It's the UN SDG offering. That is 17 goals set up by the United Nations, and they have a lot to do with what you're used to seeing with ESGs. But you're already seeing they're packaging them and selling them, corporate bonds and equities. This was from July of this year. So where do we go from here? It'll be very interesting, but you have this control from BlackRock that has access to, presidents, prime ministers, when there's an issue with the financial system and unwinding some of those bad investments, they call BlackRock. But yet BlackRock, leading up to the housing crisis, ended up having the largest bankruptcy and literally walked away from their responsibility. We're not allowed to as individuals, but corporate giants can do, it appears, a lot of things that we can't get away with. These are all facts. Try to knock them down. I think that's great. This is not right, left. This is not rose-colored glasses. Factual data, factual sources. Please do your homework and understand the system's not always out there working in your best interest. And when they say the greater good for who? That's always the question. Until next time, have a great one.